Hi there, my name is Zoe. I am a belly dancer and belly dance teacher. And in this video, we are going to be talking about how to dance to my absolute favorite instrument to dance to, which is the accordion. So this video is part of a series called Taxim Tips, in which I look at different instruments that are used in Middle Eastern music. I talk about the instruments a bit to give a bit of background and then go into how we can dance to them to match the sounds the instrument makes. So, the accordion is not a traditional Middle Eastern instrument like, say, the oud, the ney, or the qanun that we have looked at. The accordion actually, I believe, was first invented in Germany in around the 1820s, so a more recent instrument anyways, and it did not enter into Middle Eastern music until about a century later, so first half of the 20th century, and originally was used by composers like Mohammed as a kind of a foreign-sounding instrument. But it then did become incorporated into Middle Eastern music and now is used quite a lot. And in fact, the accordion was incorporated into many different kinds of folk music around the world for reasons which we will get into as soon as we start talking a little bit about the accordion. So let's talk first about where it is used, especially in Middle Eastern music. The most common place that you see the accordion used would be in the Baladi progression. So a Baladi progression is a type of song that is very, very common for belly dancers to dance to, and it has a very specific structure. So it almost always starts with an instrumental Taxim, an instrumental solo, and then you have some percussion coming in. You have kind of like a conversation between the percussion and that first instrument. And it goes on, you have different rhythms. It starts slow, it gets fast. There's a lot of different elements. But the thing we're going to talk about right now is that instrumental Taxim. Now you can use pretty much any instrument for that Taxim, but I would say the most common instrument that is used these days is the accordion. So probably you've heard Baladi accordion pieces. It's very, very common. This is definitely where the accordion shows up the most, but it also shows up in other parts of Middle Eastern music. You can also have it in méjansé. There will be sections with accordion, and usually they have that Baladi feel to them. So the accordion is, like, I associate it with street music, and probably many of you do as well, right? Because you see accordion players out there on the street all the time. It's a very portable instrument. You can carry it around. It's pretty weather resistant. So I think this is part of why it's become so popular and is used so much in folk music, in popular music, in many different cultures, not just Middle Eastern music. So the accordion, it really, when you hear it, it does give you that kind of street feel. And we are going to reflect that in our dancing. But before I get into what we can do to dance to the accordion, let's talk a little bit more about the accordion, about the kinds of sounds it makes. So the accordion, it's a bellows instrument, meaning we have this chamber, right? We have this chamber of air, and the accordion player will be pushing and pulling this to make the sound. What the sound is then the air is passing over different reeds. So reeds like the reeds in a clarinet or an oboe. And so the sound is then made by the air going over these reeds. That's what gives it that characteristic accordion sound. I like to think of it, it can often sound almost like a sigh, right? The way it's kind of going in and out, or even a whine almost. It has a very characteristic sound to it. And then the pitches, so how high or low the note is, those are controlled then by either keys or buttons. And in the oud video, you can check that out if you want, I talked about Middle Eastern music and the notes that are used in Middle Eastern music, how it uses quarter tones. So the accordion, as originally invented, didn't have any quarter tones in it, but people have come up with ways to kind of change the accordion a bit so that it can play some quarter tones. And it's quite interesting the ways that they do it. There are ways where like you play one note, and when you are pulling the accordion open, you hear one sound, but then when you push the accordion, you get like a quarter tone lower. So yeah, there's some quite ingenious methods that musicians have made in order to get an accordion that can play all of the rich Middle Eastern music. So in terms of the range, every accordion is kind of different. I mean, some accordions have bigger ranges than other ones, but your typical keyboard accordion would have a range of around, I believe, F3 to A6. So this is a little over 3 octaves, but in different ways of playing it or in different ways of changing the accordion, you can get bigger ranges. So you can have quite an extensive range going from quite low to extremely high. So range is kind of, it's very broad. I would say mostly you hear accordions playing kind of in the middle range, but again, they can go up quite high. And the sounds that we can make, again, we have this wind sound, this reed sound, this sighing sound. We can have these long, pulled out sounds, but we also can get, especially in Middle Eastern music, these very fast, kind of fluttery, trilly sounds. So we have all that to work with. And now let's talk about what steps we can do to go with that music. So, as I said, the accordion, it's an instrument of the street. It has that Baladi feel to it. So when I dance to an accordion, I'm almost always going to be using flat feet. I'm not going to be going up on releve and doing my, very oriental, elegant movements. In general, with the accordion, it's a much more earthy feel to it. I'm thinking of having a lower center of balance, and I'm doing mostly moves that are really centered on my hips and stomach area. So all of your juicy belly dance movements go great for an accordion. This is going to include horizontal hip circles of any size, the ami, horizontal eights, forward and back. As always, I will link the videos that describe these techniques in the description of this video. Your vertical eights, going up, and your mayas, going down, single hip circles, single hip eights, camels as well, rolling up, really focusing more with the camels. I'll do more focus on my stomach and pelvis. So again, kind of everything below the chest is what I'm really concentrating on when I dance to an accordion. Another movement that I find works really well for the accordion would be the big hip circle. So because, like I talked about, the accordions can have that pulling out, drawn out, sighing sound. A big hip circle works great. Or even the hip circle turn. So turning and ending in a hip circle. This is fantastic. You can even, like, coming down here and then a nice way to come up. Again, my arms are just kind of framing the movements. I'm not doing a lot of really fancy arms. I'm not probably going to be bringing them up very high in general because all of the focus is really on this part of my body. So all of your hip circles and eights, your camels, and then we talked about how the accordion makes that kind of fluttery, trilly sound. So that's a great place to layer a little shimmy on any of these movements that you're doing. So you could be in a circle and then maybe there's a little trill in the accordion, so we reflect that with a shimmy. Or maybe it's not quite a trill, maybe it's a bit slower, so we do some drops. As I'm, say, doing a hip circle, I might add some drops to reflect that. So you just kind of have to go with what you hear. But yeah, it's that pulling feeling. It's the earthy street feeling. That's what I like to go for with the accordion. Again, as always, a disclaimer that these are not rules. In the end, you can dance however you want. These are just guidelines that are meant to help you, to give you a better idea of what I find are the movements that work best with the sound of the accordion. So, keeping those things in mind, let's turn on some accordion music and try out dancing to it. You can follow along with me, or if you want, you can just make up your own moves. I definitely encourage you to do that at some point, even if it's not right now. So, that was a brief introduction of how to dance to the accordion. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, it would be great if you would do that. Thank you so much for watching, and happy practicing.